Well, so my talk is about can robots evolve their own language? And just to give you an idea of the kind of robots that we are working with, this is a small humanoid robot. That's the one that is used in our experiments that I will show later. And so it's about that high. It has cameras and computers, of course, vision, processors, lots of stuff, motors, very complex equipment. We try to understand aspects of mind in particular, of culture, of language, but we're using that by building machines that have certain capacities that we then could compare to language understanding, language production, vision, perception, learning, and those kinds of things. The challenge is, what do we need to put in these robots? What do we have to give a population of embodied autonomous agents? I mean, they're autonomous because they have their own batteries, of course, but also they have autonomy with respect to the actions that they're taking, and also they have full control over what's going on in their brain, so to speak, in their computers. Now, the question is, what do we need to put in so that they would self-organize a symbolic communication system? So symbolic communication system like language. Now, when we say, what do we need? Well, we want to know what kind of a body do they need, what kind of environment, what kind of sensory motor intelligence do they need, pattern recognition, feature extraction, and so on. But particularly also, what kind of cognitive intelligence do they need? What kind of ways of conceptualizing reality, of thinking, you know, what do we need to put in? And then, of course, also the interaction pattern, something that we call the games that they play with each other. Now, what we would like is that after a while, you know, could be a day or a week or a year maybe, we come back to see what has happened. And we want to see, on the one hand, some sort of cognitive development in these agents, learning or something going on. We want to track it. But also we want to see whether there's any evolution going on in this population with respect to the language that they are building. And of course, there's going to be something that we call semiotic dynamics, which is that new words will come, they may shift in meaning, new meanings may arise, grammatical constructions may appear. So we get a kind of living system where you know, constructions and concepts are in constant change. And the example I'm going to show is a game, a language game, where a population of robots are interacting with each other. And as part of their interaction, we hope that they would evolve color concepts like red and green and blue and yellow and so on, and also words for these concepts. So maybe I'll show you an example of an interaction. Okay, so a language game, I mean, always starts, well, we have these situations, we have a couple of blocks in the room, and the robots always start by looking around to get an idea of the objects that are there in their environment, and also an idea of the other robot. Now, one of them was saying something, you can't hear because there's no sound, but one was saying Bolima, and the other is pointing to the object that he thinks is Bolima, and then the other says, no, this is not Bolima. Okay. That's Bolima. So this is a language game. Now, you say this is a failed language game. It's true. But you see, a failure is just an opportunity for learning, right? It's an opportunity for negotiating, for creating new concepts, new words. So they keep doing this for a while, and of course I'm going to show an example of a successful game. And while I'm doing this, you'll see on the left side there, this is what one robot is seeing, and on the right side is what the other robot is seeing. Now maybe I can get a little sound. Okay, so they play a game again, and notice that the two robots never see the same thing, right? Which is a very important problem in communication. So they again look around. They look at the other because there's no point to talk when there's no other robot. Now one said Bolima again. Now they should be able to figure it out. So yes, he points to the right object. And the other robot is going to be happy. Yes. Now the next step is to think about how could a new color language emerge, where we don't put in, there's no teacher, there's no prior language put in. And actually you don't need to do so much more. You need the same mechanisms for learning color categories, but you also need the ability for the agents to invent new words when they don't have one. Now, how do they invent? Well, we give them some syllables, and then they make random combinations. Okay, these words don't mean anything, right? They could be dobodo or labada or whatever. The point is that if they don't have a word for this prototype, they can create a new word by randomly combining these syllables, and then store that as a new word in their lexicon, and then they go. So it's like, I don't have a word yet for green, let's say, but I want to express green. Well, at that moment, I create a new word, like dabado. Okay, now the other one hears dabado, doesn't know dabado, of course, because it's a new word. Now then, the other agent points, and the learner will say, this is what he means by dabado. Okay, well, I will use it too. You see? So this is how new words enter into the population, how they start to propagate. And then we can do, another important thing also is that there is alignment. Okay, so every time when they speak, they align a bit more their categories, their prototypes shift a little bit, they align a bit the use of the words. So it's a sort of continuous adaptation, if you want, a sort of social chameleon, you might say. We try to behave like the other one. Now, we have been doing lots of other experiments like this. So I'm going to show some more examples so that you get a better idea of the scope. And these are now experiments in spatial language games. And I'll show immediately this thing. So this is another kind of environment in which we are investigating spatial relations, like left, right, front, back. And we would like the robots to develop a spatial language, okay? Before it was color, now it's space. And so this robot is approaching this object. You could see what's in the field of view. And this is the object. You see the prediction and reality, actually. Now it has seen this box. Now it's going to see this landmark. And there's another object here. And this other robot is now also looking around, trying to find another robot and trying to also detect the other objects that are in the environment. And so now they can play various games which are about identifying an object in the world, but using spatial relations. And so the one is going to say something. Okay. Wadoba mo tolibu da hekari. Now, I'm not sure what it means. Because this is the result of a long series of experiments, and then we have to try and figure out what could be the meaning. But what we do know is that these agents have not only a way to categorize relations like left and right, for example, but they also have the capacity for perspective reversal. So they are able, one robot is able to take the world as he sees it and to transform that, to see it from the viewpoint of another agent or from another point in the environment or from another object, in fact. This is a game where one robot asks the other one to do something, and the other one is doing something. And now this one is saying, this is not what I was asking you. And then he's showing an example of what he had in mind, you see? And so this is another kind of game they play. Now, in order to play that kind of game, there's a lot that is needed. One of the things which is needed is that the robots get an idea of their own body. Because how can they see the other one doing something? Now, first of all, in order to know that this is what they asked for, They have to have an idea of what that thing looks like, that action looks like from when another one is doing it. And also when one says, no, no, what was it, do bodo is not this, you know, it's this. Now then he has to be able to have some idea of his body to be able to kind of guess what kind of thing it might be.